There's a place where the trees stand too still, as if holding their breath. You step into it and feel the weight of something ancient pressing down on your chest. The silence is not empty, it's full. It carries the memory of footsteps long gone, and the hush of something that once lived and now lingers. You can't hear the wind, but you can feel it. It moves through the branches like a whisper, like a warning, like a memory that won't let go. This forest doesn't just look ancient, it feels ancient. Every leaf, every root, every shadow holds a story that time forgot to erase. It's not just quiet here, it's asterisk, alive asterisk in a way you can't quite explain. And as you walk deeper, you realize you're not just walking through the forest, you're walking through time. We're talking about more than just trees and silence. It's about the spaces that time has left untouched, where the world has paused and memory has settled into stillness. These are places that have not been touched by hands, not shaped by plans, but shaped by the slow, quiet will of nature itself, over generations, centuries, maybe even millennia. And they are not empty. They are filled with the echoes of what was and the quiet promise of what might be, if only we have the patience to listen. So when I say the silent forest, I'm not just talking about a place. I'm talking about a way of seeing, of understanding that not everything needs to be loud, that not everything needs to be known. This is not a place of answers. It is a place of questions, and the silence is the question itself.
You think it's just trees, but forests are the lungs of the world. Every breath you take is tied to the silent, ancient work of these places. When we lose a forest, we lose more than just trees. We lose the balance of ecosystems, the homes of countless species, and the very air we rely on. The destruction of these spaces is not just an environmental issue. It's a loss of something fundamental, something we may never fully understand. You don't have to be an expert to care. You just have to remember that the world you live in is not separate from these places. It is made of them. This is not just about the forest. It's about the invisible thread that binds us to the earth, to each other, and to the fragile, breathing world we share. The first trees were not planted, they were born. Carved from the bones of the earth, they grew in silence, their roots drinking the memory of the land. Before the first footprints, before the first voice, the forest was a cathedral of shadows and light, a place where time moved slower than the falling of a leaf. Then came the axes, the fire, the chains. The forest was not just cut. It was hunted, stripped, and left to bleed in silence. The land remembers. Every scar, every wound, every fallen tree is a chapter in a story we have yet to finish. We walk through this silence, not as conquerors, but as inheritors of a story that began long before us and will continue long after. Imagine a forest that never speaks, but listens. It holds every sound, every whisper, every silence that we leave behind. It doesn't talk back, but it remembers. Every footstep, every breath, every moment that passes becomes part of its story. The forest doesn't ask for your secrets. It just waits, quiet and patient, for you to remember what you've lost. In its silence, there is a kind of truth. A truth that doesn't shout, that makes you listen more closely than you ever have before. It's not a place to find answers. It's a place to find yourself again and again, in the quiet between the trees. We begin with silence, a forest that has not been touched by human hands for decades. The trees stand tall, untouched, as if time itself has paused in their shade. The setup is simple, yet profound. A single microphone is placed on a wooden tripod, nestled among the roots of a massive oak. It is not a loud, intrusive device, but a quiet witness to the world around it. No power source is needed. The microphone is passive, waiting for the world to speak. It is not a tool of control, but of listening. The forest does not need to be tamed to be heard. The setup is not about capturing sound, but about creating the space for it to exist. The forest is the source, the microphone is the bridge, and the silence is the truth we are invited to witness. This is the first step in a process of listening, not with our ears, but with our presence. To set it up is to acknowledge that some truths cannot be spoken, only felt. The mechanism begins with a subtle shift in the air, a hush that settles over the trees like a memory returning to the present. It's not a sound, but a presence, as if the forest itself is breathing. This hush is not empty. It carries an echo of the past, a weight that presses against the ears and the soul. It's the forest's way of recalling its own history, of speaking without words. The mechanism is not mechanical, but it is precise. Each tree, each root, each leaf is a part of an intricate design, a silent script written in nature's own hand. To understand it, you must let yourself be quiet. The forest does not need your voice. It needs your stillness, your attention, your willingness to hear what is not said. This is how it works. Step 2, the mechanism. It is not a thing, but a process, a way of being, a lesson in stillness and listening. And it begins with silence. The clever twist is not in the mechanics, but in the silence itself. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper. The weight of the forest, the breath of the earth. The forest does not need to speak. It listens, it remembers, it holds the echoes of every footstep, every whispered prayer, every lost word. This is the twist, to make the silence speak, not through words, but through the weight of presence, the unspoken understanding between the trees and those who walk among them. It is not about hiding the truth, but about letting the truth be felt. The forest does not need to be explained. It needs to be experienced. This is how it works. The clever twist is not in the design. It is in the way the silence carries the story, and the story carries the silence. Beneath the leaves and the bark, there is a quiet rhythm, a pulse that has been beating for millennia, undisturbed, unbroken. This is not just a forest. It's a vast, interconnected web of life, each thread a lifeline, each connection a memory. The science of the forest is not in the stars or the machines, but in the soil, in the silence, in the slow, steady exchange of breath and root. We walk through the trees, but we do not see what is happening beneath. A world where time is measured in decades, not seconds. To understand this place is to understand the patience of life itself. To listen, not to speak. To feel, not to force. We are all just trees in a vast, silent forest, reaching for the sky, but never quite touching it. We grow, we bend, we break, and we keep growing. Some of us are tall, others are bent, some are gnarled and twisted by the wind, but all are part of the same quiet, unspoken rhythm of the woods. The forest does not speak, but it remembers. It carries the weight of every fallen leaf, every broken branch, every unspoken story. We may not understand the silence, but we know it. We feel it in our bones, in the spaces between our thoughts, in the absence of words. And maybe that's the point. Not to find answers, but to be still. To be part of something larger than ourselves. Something that does not need to be explained. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Did you know trees can sense when it's about to snow? They start preparing days before the first flake falls. This isn't just a myth, it's a biological strategy evolved over millennia. Ancient farmers noticed this behavior long before science had names for it. They called it tree wisdom, a way to predict seasons, harvest times, and even the coming of war. These early observations weren't just about survival. They were about connection between humans and nature, between memory and time, between the seen and the unseen. The roots of discovery aren't just in experiments or equations. They're in the quiet, persistent curiosity of people who looked up at trees and asked, what are they thinking? This is the story of how we began to understand trees, not just as plants, but as living archives of time, memory, and adaptation. Let's dive in. We're talking about how trees, ancient, silent, and often overlooked, have been studied for their behaviors long before modern science gave them names. From ancient texts to early naturalists, people observed how trees respond to their environment. Early observers noticed how trees grow toward the sun, how they shed leaves in the fall, and even how they seem to breathe through their bark. These weren't just random happenings. They were early signs of life and adaptation. Some ancient cultures believed trees could sense and respond to human presence, while others saw them as silent messengers of the Earth's rhythms. These early observations laid the groundwork for what we now call plant behavior and communication. Even before we had microscopes or soil sensors, people were tracking the subtle shifts in trees, their growth, their shedding, their responses. These observations were the first steps toward understanding the hidden world of plant life. So, when we talk about the roots of discovery, we're not just looking at the roots of trees. We're looking at the roots of scientific curiosity itself. Trees have been helping us understand nature for thousands of years. You might not realize it, but trees are actually your silent allies. They've been watching, breathing, and responding to your world long before you ever noticed them. Every time you walk through a forest, you're stepping into a network of ancient intelligence. Trees communicate, adapt, and even protect one another, all without a single word being spoken. By studying these ancient behaviors, we're not just learning about trees. We're gaining insight into the resilience and intelligence of life on Earth itself. Understanding this hidden world of tree behavior could change how we think about nature, how we live, and how we care for the planet we all share. Let's fast forward through time, from the ancient Greeks to the 18th century. Aristotle and Theophrastus laid the groundwork for plant science, but they didn't know trees could sense their environment. In the 1600s, the microscope opened new eyes on the plant world. Scientists like Robert Hooke started seeing cells and understanding how trees absorb water and nutrients through their roots. By the 1700s, botanists like Carl Linnaeus began classifying plants systematically. They documented how trees respond to light, water, and even human touch, though the science behind it was still in its infancy. The 1800s brought a surge of curiosity. Scientists like Jean-Baptiste Lamarck proposed that plants could pass on acquired traits, and others started to realize trees might have some form of awareness. As we raced through centuries, we saw how early observations shaped modern science. The path from Aristotle to Darwin was paved with wonder, and the idea that trees could feel and react began to take root. Trees are like really smart, quiet friends. They watch the world, remember things, and even talk to each other through their roots. They use the sun like a flashlight to find the best spots to grow. And when it's dark, they know when to sleep and when to wake up. Even though they can't move, they can remember where the water is and where the food is. They're like nature's detectives. They can even sense when another tree is in trouble. That's how they help each other, even without saying a word. So, the next time you see a tree, remember, it's not just standing there. It's thinking, feeling, and growing, like their quiet superhero in the forest. To begin our experiment, we set up a controlled environment where we could observe trees in their natural state, yet with the ability to track their subtle movements. We selected a small grove of young oak trees, ensuring the soil was rich and the conditions were stable. We placed markers around each tree at ground level, carefully noting their positions to track any slight shifts over time. These markers would help us measure the tree's response to environmental changes with precision. Next, we installed a simple frame with a string and a small weight, allowing us to observe how the tree might react to wind or movement. This setup would capture even the smallest tilting or bending of the trunk. Finally, we installed a camera with a motion-sensitive trigger, so we could capture any changes in the tree's posture without disturbing it. The camera would record every subtle shift in real time. With everything in place, we began our observations. The trees stood silent, but we were ready to witness how they responded to the world around them, even in the quietest moments. Once the tree detects a change in light, it begins to shift its energy toward the direction of more sunlight. This process is called phototropism, and it's driven by a chemical signal called auxin. Auxin is a hormone that moves through the plant's cells, accumulating on the shaded side of the stem. This creates an imbalance in growth, causing the stem to curve toward the light. As the cells on the shaded side grow longer, the stem bends, redirecting the plant toward the light. This is a slow, precise adjustment that can take hours or even days. This mechanism isn't just about survival. It's a form of communication. The tree is constantly sensing and responding to its environment, adapting its structure in real time. Phototropism is the first step in the tree's journey toward light, but it's only the beginning of a complex and elegant system of sensing and reacting to the world around it. Now, here's the clever twist. Trees don't just react to stress, they communicate with each other through their roots. This underground network, called the Mycorrhizal network, acts like a natural internet, sharing nutrients and warning signals between trees. Imagine a tree under attack by insects. It releases chemical signals through its roots, alerting neighboring trees to the threat. This early warning system helps them prepare defenses before the insects even arrive. This isn't just survival. It's a form of cooperation. Older trees, called mother trees, can even nurture younger ones by sharing resources, showing an intelligence that defies our understanding of plant life. This hidden communication network reshapes how we think about forests. They aren't just collections of trees. They're dynamic, interconnected communities with their own kind of intelligence and memory. Underneath the bark, a world of silent activity unfolds. Trees communicate through a complex network of roots, exchanging nutrients and warnings in a language we're only beginning to understand. This mycorrhizal network acts like a nervous system, transmitting chemical signals that alert nearby trees to threats like drought or disease. Trees can even recognize their neighbors, responding differently to familiar roots than to strangers in their soil. This network isn't just for survival. It's a form of cooperation, where trees share resources and support one another in a kind of botanical community. As we uncover these hidden processes, it becomes clear that the forest is not just a collection of trees, but a living, breathing, interconnected system. Imagine a tree as a giant, ancient phone tree. It listens, learns, and responds to the world around it, just like a call center operator with a massive, interconnected network. When the wind whispers, it's a call. When a leaf falls, it's a message. The tree processes this information and adjusts, just like a phone tree reroutes calls based on availability. This isn't dumb. It's a sophisticated, natural system of communication. The tree doesn't have a brain, but it has a network. Its roots and mycorrhizal fungi, like a phone tree's wiring and routing. In this analogy, the tree is both the operator and the customer. It sends and receives signals, adjusting its growth to survive, just like a phone tree manages calls in real time. It's gloriously dumb, but it's accurate. A tree's behavior is not a conscious decision. It's an evolved response, a natural algorithm written over millennia. So the next time you see a tree, think of it not as a passive object, but as a silent, ancient operator in a vast living network. Still answering calls, still making connections. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Have you ever wondered how trees survive in the darkest corners of the forest? It's not just about roots and rain. It's about a secret partnership, one that's older than time itself. Deep underground, where no light reaches, a hidden world is alive with activity. This is where trees and fungi have formed a bond so ancient, it predates human memory. This isn't just a coincidence. It's a purposeful alliance. Trees provide fungi with sugar, and in return, Fungi help trees absorb water and nutrients from the soil. This relationship is so vital. Some scientists call it the Wood Wide Web, a network that connects entire forests, sharing resources and even warnings of danger. In this hidden world, life is not just about survival. It's about cooperation, communication, and a kind of ecological teamwork that defies imagination. So what exactly are we talking about? Well, imagine a forest floor where tiny thread-like structures stretch out like a vast invisible web beneath the soil. These aren't just roots. They're actually the threads of fungi, working closely with tree roots in a partnership that's both ancient and essential. This relationship is called mutualism, which means both the tree and the fungus benefit. The tree gives the fungus sugars made through photosynthesis, while the fungus helps the tree absorb water and nutrients from the soil, things the tree can't do on its own. But this isn't just a simple exchange. The fungus acts like a highway system for the tree, extending its reach far beyond its own roots. It can even connect multiple trees together, allowing them to share resources and even warn each other of danger. And here's the twist. The fungus isn't just a helper. It also protects the tree from harmful pathogens and helps it survive in tough soil conditions. In return, the tree provides the fungus with food and a stable home. So in the end, this partnership is a perfect example of how nature thrives on cooperation, not competition. Trees and fungi have been working together for millions of years, creating ecosystems that are both strong and resilient. You might not notice it, but the health of our forests depends on these underground partnerships. Every time you enjoy fresh air or walk in the woods, you are indirectly benefiting from the secret work of trees and fungi. These relationships are crucial for carbon storage and soil fertility. Fungi help trees absorb nutrients, while trees provide fungi with sugars from photosynthesis. It's a win-win for the planet. Understanding these relationships helps us protect forests better. By supporting these natural partnerships, we can fight climate change and preserve biodiversity in ways we might not even realize. So, next time you take a walk through a forest, remember that you're not just walking through trees. You're walking through a web of life that's quietly working to keep our planet balanced. Let's fast forward to the Carboniferous, around 300 million years ago. That's when the first trees began to team up with fungi, forming the ancient roots of mycorrhizal networks. These early partnerships were crucial for survival. Fungi helped trees access nutrients, while trees provided fungi with sugars from photosynthesis. Mutual gain, ancient and efficient. This relationship didn't just last millions of years. It evolved, refined, and became a blueprint for modern ecosystems. Trees and fungi were the original internet, sharing nutrients across vast distances. Even today, these ancient alliances are still at work. They shape the health of forests, fight climate change, and support the entire web of life we see around us. So next time you walk through a forest, remember, though towering trees aren't standing alone, they're part of a massive living network, still whispering the secrets of the past. Imagine you're in a forest, and every tree has a friend who helps it grow. That friend is a fungus, like a tiny helper that lives in the soil. The fungus sends out long, thread-like arms to collect nutrients from the soil, and then shares them with the tree through the roots. This teamwork makes both the tree and the fungus stronger, so they can grow taller, live longer, and even survive when it's really hard. So, next time you see a tree, remember it's not alone. It has a secret helper living in the dirt, working together for the best. To start this partnership, trees release chemical signals into the soil. These signals are like a call for help, inviting fungi to join the team. The fungi, in turn, respond by growing towards the tree's roots. The fungi are like nature's delivery drivers, ready to bring the tree the nutrients it needs. Their long, thread-like structures, called hyphae, stretch through the soil, exploring for nutrients and water. The tree and fungi begin to form a physical connection, linking their root systems through a network of hyphae. This is like the fungi becoming a sort of underground highway for the tree. This connection is only possible through the tree's roots, which have special structures called mycorrhizal interfaces. These structures allow the tree to share its resources with the fungi in return for their support. Once connected, the tree and fungi are ready to exchange resources. The fungi provide water and nutrients, while the tree offers sugars from photosynthesis. This sets the stage for a lifelong partnership. Once the fungi have established their network, they start to form tiny, thread-like structures called mycelium that weave through the soil like a hidden web. This web is not just for the fungi. It's a pathway for the tree to send out its own signals. The mycelium acts as a kind of communication hub, linking multiple trees together. This is how trees can share nutrients, water, and even warn each other of danger through chemical signals. The trees, in turn, provide the fungi with sugars made from sunlight through a process called photosynthesis. This sugar is like the fungi's food, giving them the energy to grow and spread their network. This exchange is like a mutual lending system. Trees give fungi food, and fungi give trees water, nutrients, and even help them survive disease or drought. In this way, the relationship isn't just about survival. It's about cooperation, sharing, and building a resilient, interconnected forest that thrives together. Now, the clever twist comes when the tree starts to send out special signals through its roots. These signals are like a call for help, asking the fungi to bring more nutrients from the soil. The fungi respond by ramping up their nutrient production and even moving towards the tree's roots. They're like a well-trained team, always ready to support their partner. This mutual exchange is so efficient that it can help the tree survive in poor soil or even in harsh environments. It's a win-win situation for both partners. So, in this clever twist, the tree and fungi are not just connected. They're collaborating, evolving together, and creating a powerful, resilient ecosystem. Underneath the soil, a silent network hums with life. This is where trees and fungi form a complex, ancient communication system known as the mycorrhizal network. Each tree sends chemical signals through the fungi, sharing nutrients, water, and even warnings about pests or disease. It's like a silent conversation happening underground. Fungi also help trees access nutrients from deep in the soil that their roots can't reach alone. In return, trees provide the fungi with carbohydrates made from sunlight. This mutual exchange isn't just about survival. It's about cooperation, allowing forests to thrive in ways we're only beginning to understand. By studying this network, scientists are unlocking new ways to protect and restore ecosystems, proving that even in the dark, life is working together. Imagine a forest where trees are like humans who can't feel their feet. They're stuck in place, and the only way they get nutrients is if someone else brings them. The fungi, in this analogy, are like a group of delivery workers who can sense where the nutrients are and bring them directly to the tree's roots. So, in this dumb but accurate analogy, the tree is a passive recipient, the fungi are active workers, and the whole system is a symbiotic network that keeps the forest alive. It's like a city with a delivery service that's also part of the infrastructure. They're not just helpers, they're essential to the whole system. This analogy may be silly, but it's wildly accurate. And it helps explain why forests are so resilient, and why fungi are the real unsung heroes of the ecosystem. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a world beneath our feet, hidden from sight, where trees whisper to each other through a network of roots and fungi. This isn't just soil and decay. It's a living, breathing system that connects the entire forest like a nervous system. It's called the mycorrhizal network, a symbiotic alliance between plants and fungi that has shaped ecosystems for millions of years. This is more than just a biological marvel. It's nature's version of the internet, connecting life in ways we're only beginning to understand. And today, we're diving into the strange, beautiful world of the mycorrhizal network, nature's internet. So what exactly are we talking about? It's a network of fungi that live in symbiosis with the roots of most plants on Earth. These fungi help plants absorb water and nutrients from the soil in exchange for sugars made through photosynthesis. These fungal threads, called hyphae, are like a web that stretches across the soil, connecting individual plants and even entire ecosystems. It's not just about nutrients, it's also about communication. This network isn't just a passive support system. It's dynamic, intelligent, and surprisingly complex. Some studies suggest it can even influence plant growth patterns and behavior. Understanding this network helps us see plants not as isolated organisms, but as part of a vast, interconnected web of life. It's a reminder of how deeply nature is linked and how much we still have to learn. You might not notice it, but the health of your local forests, farms, and even your own garden depends on this hidden network. Mycorrhizal fungi are the unsung heroes of soil health, connecting plants in ways that can boost growth and resilience. When you eat a vegetable or fruit, you're indirectly benefiting from this underground web. The fungi help plants absorb nutrients, and in turn, the plants provide sugars to the fungi, creating a symbiotic relationship that's critical for both. Understanding this network can help us grow food more sustainably, reduce the need for chemical fertilizers, and even restore damaged ecosystems. It's not just about plants. It's about the web of life that supports everything. So next time you walk through a forest or plant a garden, remember that you're part of a vast, invisible network that's shaping the world around you. It's more than a scientific curiosity. It's a key to the future of our planet. Around 400 million years ago, the first land plants began to colonize Earth. And with them, the first fungi emerged as partners in survival. Their collaboration would reshape entire ecosystems. As plants spread across the continents, so did fungi, forming an underground web that allowed them to share nutrients, water, and even chemical signals across vast distances. By the time dinosaurs roamed the Earth, this network was already a vital part of the ecosystem, enabling plants to thrive in harsh environments and supporting entire food webs. Fast forward to the present day, and this same network continues to operate in the shadows, silently connecting plants across forests, deserts, and even urban landscapes. From the ancient past to today, the mycorrhizal network has remained a silent, powerful force, a natural internet that keeps the Earth's green heart beating. Imagine you're in a forest, and every tree is connected by invisible threads, like a secret network that helps them talk and share food. These threads are made of special fungi, and they help trees share nutrients and even warn each other about danger. Even little plants can use this network to get the help they need, like a team working together. It's not just about sharing food, it's about teamwork, and that's how forests stay healthy and strong. The mycorrhizal network starts with the soil, a hidden world where roots and fungi meet. In this delicate dance, plant roots release sugars into the soil, fueling the fungi that surround them. These fungi, once independent, now form a symbiotic bond. They exchange nutrients for carbohydrates, creating a mutualistic relationship that's both ancient and essential. The fungi act as a bridge, linking plants and soil in a vast, interconnected web. This mutualistic exchange forms the foundation of the network's power. This setup is not just a simple exchange. It's the first step in a complex, communicative system that spans miles across the soil. The network is built not by chance, but by this cooperative partnership. Now, the fungi extend their hyphae into the soil, creating a vast, invisible network. These fine, thread-like structures are like the nervous system of the forest, connecting roots across vast distances. The hyphae act as conduits, transporting water, nutrients, and even chemical signals between plants. This is the silent language of the forest, enabling communication beyond the reach of roots. Some fungi produce specialized structures called arbuscules, which form intimate junctions with plant roots. These are the sites where the exchange of nutrients actually happens. In this exchange, plants give the fungi carbohydrates, their energy source, while the fungi provide essential minerals like phosphorus and nitrogen that the plant can't easily access on its own. This symbiotic relationship is a perfect example of mutualism. Both organisms benefit, creating a resilient, interconnected ecosystem that thrives beyond individual survival. Now, here's the clever twist. The fungi don't just pass nutrients. They also send chemical signals, like a kind of biological Wi-Fi. These signals help plants warn each other about threats like drought or pests. This is a form of communication that evolved over millions of years, allowing plants to share information without direct contact. It's like a secret language shared across the forest floor. These chemical signals can even influence the behavior of other plants, encouraging them to grow new roots or defend themselves in anticipation of danger. This is how the network becomes more than just a conduit for nutrients. It's a system of intelligence, adaptation, and cooperation that helps entire ecosystems survive. It's nature's internet, but far more elegant and ancient than anything we've ever built. Underneath our feet, a vast, silent network pulses with life. Fungal hyphae form a dense web stretching across soil like roots in a hidden world, connecting trees and plants in ways we're only beginning to understand. This is not just a network. It's a communication system. Fungi send chemical signals through their hyphae, sharing nutrients, warning of danger, and even helping neighbors in times of stress. Some studies suggest that these networks can transfer carbon, water, and even electrical signals between plants, creating a kind of mother tree system that nurtures younger trees in the forest. This is the science behind the metaphor. A real living internet built by fungi, where information moves through shared resources, and where the forest itself becomes a collective intelligence. The mycorrhizal network is not just a scientific marvel. It's a reminder of the deep invisible connections that sustain life on Earth. It's a lesson in cooperation, resilience, and the quiet power of symbiosis. So imagine, if you will, a vast invisible web of cables stretching through the soil beneath your feet, connecting trees, fungi, and even animals in a silent, ancient conversation. It's not the internet you and I know, but it's the closest thing nature has to it. A biological network that shares nutrients, warnings, and even memories between living things. It's not dumb at all. It's just that we don't have the language to describe it, and we're not built to see it with our eyes. So next time you walk through a forest, remember that you're not just walking through trees. You're walking through a conversation that's been happening for millennia. And while it's gloriously dumb, it's also gloriously powerful. A reminder that nature has always had the internet, we just haven't been able to see. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You know how trees grow in forests, standing tall and silent? But what if I told you they're not just passive? They're actually talking, using a secret language we've only just begun to understand. Some scientists believe that trees use chemicals and fungal networks to communicate, sending signals across vast distances beneath the soil. It turned out that the trees were using a chemical language, releasing substances to alert others of danger or resource scarcity. And it's not just about survival. Some studies suggest trees even share nutrients through these underground networks, forming a kind of symbiotic community. So next time you walk through a forest, remember, you might be walking through a silent conversations, one that's been happening for millennia. We're talking about a hidden network beneath the forest floor, where trees send chemical messages through their roots, warning each other of danger. These signals are like a chemical language. Some trees release warning compounds when attacked by insects, alerting their neighbors to prepare for the same threat. This web of connections is called the Wood Wide Web, a term that captures both the scale and the intelligence of the system. Scientists are still uncovering how this communication works. But what's clear is that trees are not alone in the canopy. They're part of a complex, living network. When you walk through a forest, you're not just stepping on soil. You're stepping on a network of communication. Trees don't just grow. They're talking. And you're part of that conversation without even realizing it. The air around you is filled with chemical signals and electrical pulses that trees use to warn each other of danger. It's like a silent, ancient internet of life, and you're breathing in its messages. This isn't just about trees. It's about the entire ecosystem. When you protect a forest, you're not just preserving trees. You're safeguarding a complex, living network that affects air quality, water cycles, and even climate. Understanding this communication can change how we think about nature. It's not just a backdrop for our lives. It's a dynamic, intelligent system that deserves our respect and protection. So, next time you're in the woods, remember, you're not just a visitor. You're part of a conversation that's been happening for millennia, and it's worth paying attention to. Ancient forests were not silent. Over 100 million years ago, trees began using chemical signals to warn each other of danger. These early whispers laid the foundation for a complex network of communication that we're only now beginning to understand. In the 1970s, scientists discovered that when a tree is attacked, it releases volatile chemicals into the air. These airborne signals can be detected by neighboring trees, triggering their own defenses before they're even attacked. The 1990s brought a major breakthrough with the discovery of the Mycorrhizal network, a hidden web of fungal threads that connect tree roots. This wood-wide web allows trees to share nutrients, warnings, and even water across vast distances. As we entered the 2000s, researchers began to realize that trees can also communicate through sound. Low-frequency vibrations, or woodpecker sounds, travel through the air and the ground, carrying messages across the forest. In recent years, scientists have even used acoustic sensors to listen to the voices of trees. These findings are reshaping our understanding of forests as living, interconnected, and intelligent ecosystems. Imagine you're in a forest, and the trees are talking. They don't use words, but they do use roots and chemicals to send messages to each other. It's like a secret phone line underground. When a tree is hurt, it sends out a signal through its roots. Other trees hear it and get ready to help. It's like a tree calling for help, and others answer. These messages can warn about insects, drought, or even fire. Trees don't just live alone. They're part of a big team working together to survive. It's like a forest that's always listening, always helping, and always growing. Trees don't just stand there. They talk, they learn, and they protect each other. To understand how trees communicate, we first need to look at their physical setup. They're not just standing alone in the forest, but connected through an intricate network beneath the soil. This network is made of fungi, and it's called the mycorrhizal network. These fungi form a symbiotic relationship with tree roots, helping them absorb water and nutrients. The mycorrhizal network acts like a highway system for the trees, allowing them to share resources and even send chemical signals across the forest floor. This is the first step in the communication process. The physical setup that enables trees to connect and exchange information. When a tree is attacked, it releases volatile organic compounds into the air. These are chemical signals that travel through the atmosphere, like a whisper carried by the wind. These chemicals can be detected by neighboring trees, which then prepare their own defenses. It's like a warning system that works across distances. The tree responds by increasing the production of defensive chemicals in its leaves. These are like a natural pesticide, deterring herbivores before they arrive. This communication system is not perfect, but it's a crucial part of a tree's survival strategy. It's a form of ecological intelligence that we're only beginning to understand. The twist comes when the trees release chemical signals through their roots, forming a hidden underground network. These signals are like whispers, carrying messages across the forest floor. These chemicals are not random. They're precise, often signaling danger or resource availability. It's like a covert language that only the trees can understand. Some trees even release chemicals to warn neighbors of pests or drought, giving them a heads up to prepare or defend themselves. This underground communication is a masterclass in cooperation, showing how trees work together, even when they're not in the same light. It's not just about survival. It's about building a forest that's smarter, more resilient, and more connected than we ever imagined. Underneath the leaves, a hidden network hums with life. This isn't just a forest, it's a symphony of signals where trees send out chemical whispers through the soil, a silent language that shapes their world. When a tree is attacked by insects, it releases volatile organic compounds, chemical alarms that alert its neighbors. These airborne signals can trigger a defensive response in nearby trees, even before they're attacked. Some researchers believe that trees can even recognize their neighbors. They may respond differently to a sibling tree than to a stranger, showing a kind of botanical memory and identity. This science is still unfolding, and what we're discovering challenges our understanding of forests. They're not just collections of plants. They're intelligent, interconnected, and full of life we've only begun to hear. Imagine a city where every building is a tree, and instead of phones, they use roots and fungi to send messages. Each tree is a citizen, and the ground is a vast network of communication. The trees don't just talk. They share resources, warn each other of danger, and even help sick neighbors. It's like a neural network, but made of biology and built over millennia. It's not about words. It's about the flow of life itself, about how trees use this network to survive, adapt, and even protect each other from the elements and pests. So when you walk through a forest, you're not just seeing trees. You're witnessing a conversation that has been happening for millions of years, in silence, through the soil, and through the roots of the earth. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a forest that talks. Not with words, but with chemicals, warnings, and signals that move through the air like whispers between trees. When a tree is attacked, it doesn't just react. It calls for help. It sends out chemical messages that travel through the air and even underground. Some trees even team up, sharing warnings and resources like a network of sentinels. They're not just standing there. They're strategizing. This is the language of trees, a chemical conversation that shapes entire ecosystems. And it's all happening right beneath our feet. So next time you walk through the woods, listen closely. You might just hear the trees talking, and they've been waiting a long time to be understood. So what exactly are we talking about? When we say trees communicate, it's not just about the rustle of leaves or the whisper of wind. It's about a secret language made of chemicals, released into the air and soil, carrying messages that can save their lives. These chemical signals are like a tree's way of calling for help. When a tree is attacked by insects or disease, it sends out chemical warnings to its neighbors, letting them know something's wrong. Some of these chemicals are volatile, meaning they evaporate quickly and travel through the air. Others are carried by water, moving through the soil and reaching tree roots miles away. These messages can trigger a whole chain reaction. A healthy tree might start producing chemicals that repel insects, or even release a warning that makes neighboring trees stronger. So, when we talk about the language of trees, we're not just talking about silent, ancient beings. We're talking about an invisible, chemical conversation that shapes entire ecosystems. You might think trees are just standing there, but they're actually part of a vast, silent conversations. Every time you walk through a forest, you're stepping into a world where plants are talking to each other in ways we've only begun to understand. When a tree gets attacked by insects, it doesn't just defend itself. It sends out chemical signals to its neighbors. These molecules are like a warning call, letting nearby trees know they're under threat too. And it's not just about survival. Trees also communicate about drought, disease, and even changes in the soil. They're sharing resources, warning each other, and building a kind of ecological network that supports the whole forest. By understanding this, we're not just learning about trees. We're learning how ecosystems work. It's a reminder that nature is far more complex and connected than we ever imagined. Imagine standing in a forest 200 million years ago, where ancient ferns and early trees first started to communicate. It wasn't words, but chemicals in the air. Signals between roots and leaves that set the stage for life on land. Fast forward to the Carboniferous period, a time of superforests and swampy wetlands. Trees were evolving new ways to warn each other of insects, sharing chemical messages through the soil like a hidden network. By the time dinosaurs roamed, trees had already mastered the art of chemical communication. They could warn each other of danger, even from far away, using airborne signals that would later inspire modern science. Through ice ages and mass extinctions, trees kept adapting, refining their chemical language. Their warnings became more precise, their signals more complex. A silent but powerful evolution of survival. And today, we're still decoding their messages. The same signals that once saved ancient forests are now helping scientists understand plant communication, climate resilience, and even human medicine. Imagine trees can talk. Not with words, but with smells. When a tree gets hurt, it sends a message in the air. Other trees hear the message and know they're in trouble. They start making their own warning smell to stay safe. It's like a tree's way of calling for help, but with a smell instead of a voice. So next time you see a tree, remember, it's not just standing there. It's sending messages and staying safe in its own way. Imagine a forest where trees don't just grow, they communicate. It starts with a simple setup. A healthy tree, a few neighbors, and a quiet, sunny morning. This is where the silent conversation begins. The first step is the tree itself. It needs to be in good health, with roots firmly anchored in the soil and a network of tiny tubes running through its trunk and branches. These tubes are the tree's nervous system. Around it, other trees are nearby. Not too close, not too far. These neighbors are part of the setup. They're the listeners, the ones who will eventually hear the message the first tree sends. The soil beneath is rich, moist, and teeming with life. It's more than just dirt. It's a communication channel, a kind of underground network where chemical signals travel from tree to tree. Now, everything is in place. The tree is ready, the soil is ready, the neighbors are waiting. All that's left is to set something in motion. A signal, a call, a warning that will soon travel through the forest. Once a tree detects an attack, it doesn't just react. It sends out chemical signals through its roots, like a secret message across the soil. These chemical messengers are called volatiles, and they can travel for meters underground, alerting nearby trees to the same threat. This underground communication is fast and precise, allowing entire forests to act as a coordinated defense system. It's like a silent, ancient internet. Trees sharing warnings and resources, working together to survive. This isn't just survival. It's a complex, plant-based language, written in chemicals and passed through the earth. Now, here's the clever twist. Trees don't just send out warnings to their neighbors. They also tune out the noise. This prevents confusion and ensures only the most urgent signals are prioritized. It's like a natural firewall, where trees adjust their responses based on the type and intensity of the signal they receive. This helps them avoid overreacting to false alarms. This selective communication means trees can maintain a kind of internal network, where only the most critical information is passed along, keeping the whole forest in sync. It's an example of nature's ingenuity. Trees aren't just reacting. They're adapting, filtering, and refining their chemical language with the same care we give to our own communication. When you think of trees, you might imagine them as silent and still. But beneath the surface, they're actually part of a vast chemical conversations, sending and receiving messages across the forest floor. These chemical signals are like a language, with specific compounds acting as warnings or invitations. Some are even recognized by other trees, triggering defensive responses in their neighbors. Some trees even release volatile organic compounds into the air, like a scent that acts as a warning to insects and other plants, letting them know danger is nearby. This isn't just survival. It's a form of communication that's as old as the forest itself. shaping ecosystems and relationships that we're only now beginning to understand. Imagine a forest where trees don't just grow, but also whisper to each other. They use chemical signals to warn of danger, like a phone call in the woods. These whispers aren't just sounds. They're a chemical language, invisible to the eye, but powerful in its reach. It's like a whole network of trees, all connected underground, sharing warnings like a secret society. In this way, the forest becomes a conversation, not just a collection of plants. So next time you walk through the woods, remember, though trees aren't just standing there, they're talking. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You've probably seen a tree in the winter, standing alone, its branches frozen, its leaves gone. But have you ever thought about what it's remembering? Trees don't have brains, but they do have memory. In their roots, in their bark, in the way they grow. It's not like your memory, but it's real and it's ancient. Trees remember the seasons, the storms, the droughts. They remember where to put their roots, where to hold on, and where to let go. And they remember each other, through the soil, through the air, through the language of chemicals and light. They share stories, they warn each other, they grow together. So when you walk through a forest or sit beneath a tree, you're not just seeing the plant. You're stepping into a world of memory, of history, of deep, slow, silent communication. So what exactly are we talking about? When we say trees remember, it's not like they have a brain or a memory in the way we do. But they do have ways of keeping track of their environment, their history, and even their interactions with other trees. They remember things like seasonal changes, the presence of animals, and even the weather. These memories are stored in their roots, their rings, and even in the way they grow and react to their surroundings. Trees can even remember damage they've suffered in the past, redirecting resources to areas that need healing. It's a kind of memory that's not stored in a single place, but spread across their entire structure. But how do they do this? What kind of system allows them to store and recall such information? It's not just about survival. It's about adaptation, communication, and the kind of wisdom that comes from being rooted in place for centuries. So when we say trees remember, we're not just talking about nostalgia or history. We're talking about a form of memory that's deeply integrated with their biology, their environment, and their relationships with the world around them. You might think trees are just standing there doing nothing. But what if I told you they're quietly shaping the world around them, and you're part of that story? Every time you walk through a forest, you're walking on the memories of the trees below. Their roots are like a neural network, storing information about the soil, the water, and even the weather. When you take a breath of fresh air, you're breathing in the legacy of ancient trees that have watched this place change over centuries. They remember the droughts, the floods, and the storms. And when you plant a tree, you're not just adding to the landscape. You're adding to a living memory. Trees don't forget, and they don't stop learning. They're learning for you. So maybe you should care about trees, not just for their beauty or their shade, but for the way they remember. They remember you, and you remember them through the air, the earth, and the stories they keep alive. How could a tree, standing still for centuries, hold so much history in its rings? Each one a year, each one a story. Imagine standing in the same place where your great-great-grandparents once stood, their footprints still faintly etched in the soil. Trees don't just remember time. They remember storms, fires, and the people who walked by their roots. When you look at a tree, you're looking at a living library, a record of the Earth's heartbeat over centuries. Every ring is a chapter, every scar a sentence, every leaf a whisper of the past. Imagine a tree that knows when it's been hurt before. It remembers the rain, the sun, even the bugs that tried to eat its leaves. When the wind blows, it sways like it's dancing with old friends. It knows the rhythm of the earth, just like you know your favorite song. Even when it's quiet, it's thinking. It's remembering where the water came from and where to send it next. Trees don't have brains, but they do have memories. They store them in their bark, their roots, and their leaves. So next time you see a tree, think about what it might be remembering. Maybe it's been through a storm, or it's waiting for spring to come back. Imagine standing in a forest where every tree has a story, and those stories are written in the rings of its trunk. What if these rings aren't just records of time, but also of memory? These rings are more than just calendars. They are the tree's diary, capturing the highs and lows of its life, wet years, dry years, even the scars of storms and fire. It starts with the root system, a vast network underground that acts like a nervous system, sending signals and nutrients to every part of the tree. This underground network is where the tree connects with others, sharing information about water, danger, and even warnings about threats from pests or disease. So the tree doesn't just remember, it communicates, learns, and adapts. Its memory is written in the soil, in the roots, and in the silent language of the forest itself. So how do trees actually store and retrieve these memories? It starts with the chemical language of their cells, a quiet conversation that happens over decades, even centuries. Inside each cell, there are proteins that act like tiny recorders, capturing the rhythm of light, water, and temperature, like a tree's own diary written in molecules. Over time, these messages build a kind of internal map, helping the tree know which way to grow, when to flower, and how to defend itself against threats it's faced before. And here's the wonder. These memories aren't just stored in one place, but are shared across the entire tree, like a quiet living archive passed down through the generations. So when you look at a tree, you're not just seeing a plant. You're seeing a memory keeper, a storyteller in bark, a witness to time written in roots. So here's the clever twist. Trees don't just remember by storing data. They remember by shaping their environment. They use their roots to create a kind of memory bank in the soil itself. This isn't just about survival. It's about communication. The roots release chemicals that can warn neighboring trees of danger, like a message sent through the earth. It's like a vast underground internet, where trees exchange warnings, nutrients, and even information about the weather, all through their roots. This is how trees remember, not by keeping a record, but by creating a living archive in the earth, where every tree is both a participant and a witness to the forest's history. And so, the forest becomes a place of memory, not just in the trees, but in the soil, in the air, in the silence between the leaves. You might think trees are just standing there, but they're actually listening. They're tuning in to the whispers of the forest, to the vibrations in the soil, to the silent language of roots. Scientists now believe that trees can remember through their roots, storing information about their environment and even about other trees, like a kind of ancient living network. This memory isn't just about survival, it's about connection. Trees can recall the presence of others, even across great distances, sharing nutrients and warnings in a way that feels almost like a conversation. It's as if the forest is a single, ancient mind, with trees acting as its neurons, sending and receiving signals through the soil, remembering and learning over centuries. The science behind this is still unfolding, but what we're beginning to understand is that memory isn't just for humans. It's part of the earth itself, woven into the roots and rhythm of life. So, here's the thing. Trees don't think like us. They don't remember in the way we do. But maybe they remember in a way that's just as real, just as important, and maybe even more beautiful. Think of a tree as a giant, ancient brain. Not one that thinks, but one that feels. It's not about memories in the way we know them. It's about remembering through the way it grows, the way it survives, the way it connects. They remember through the way they grow, the way they respond to the world. They remember through the rings inside their trunks, through the chemicals they release, through the way they communicate with other trees. And maybe that's the best part. They don't try to remember. They just are. They don't think about their past, but they carry it with them. In the roots, in the rings, in the way they reach for the sky. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a world where every tree, root, and leaf is part of a single breathing organism. Not just a forest, but a living, thinking system. It's not just growing, it's communicating. This isn't science fiction. It's the reality of forests as superorganisms, vast interconnected networks of life working in harmony. Every organism has a role, and they're all part of the same body. These forests aren't just ecosystems. They're conscious, adaptive, and resilient. They remember, they learn, and they evolve. They're more than trees. They're a kind of living intelligence. In this hidden world, every organism is a cell in a vast ancient body. And as we stand on the edge of understanding, we're beginning to see the forest not as a collection, but as a single, unified being. When we talk about the forest as a superorganism, we're not just looking at trees and soil. We're seeing a vast, interconnected web of life that behaves like a single living entity. This network of fungi, roots, and microbes acts as a nervous system, sending signals across the forest floor like a silent, ancient internet. In this system, every organism has a role, be it decomposer, predator, or symbiont, working together in a delicate balance that sustains the entire ecosystem. The forest is not just a collection of life. It's a thinking, breathing, evolving body, shaped by centuries of interdependence and resilience. You might think you're just walking through trees, but you're actually stepping on the nervous system of the forest. Every root, every leaf, every creature is part of a vast living network that communicates, shares, and supports life in ways we are only beginning to understand. This isn't just a metaphor. It's a biological reality. The forest is an ecosystem that functions as a single coordinated organism, with fungi acting as the nervous system that links all living things in a silent underground dialogue. You may not be able to see it, but you're part of this system too. Every breath you take, every step you make, is an interaction with a living, breathing entity that has shaped the planet for eons, and continues to shape your world. Understanding this connection isn't just about science. It's about recognizing that we are not separate from nature, but deeply embedded within it. The forest is not just a place to visit. It's a living, breathing extension of ourselves. It weathered fires, floods, and ice, and each time it adapted, evolved, and re-emerged, more resilient, more interconnected than before. The forest learned to remember, to store knowledge in its soil, in its fungi, in the silent language of its roots, passing it down through generations. Today, it stands as a living archive, a library of life, where the organism is both a keeper and a reader of the same ancient script. Imagine the forest as one big living creature. Trees are like its skin, roots are its bones, and mushrooms are like its brain. Everything works together, not just by accident. When a tree gets sick, the fungi send out signals, like a brain telling the rest of the body to help. It's like a team working together to keep the whole forest healthy. Even when a tree dies, it doesn't end. Its body becomes part of the forest's food chain, giving nutrients back to the soil so new trees can grow. It's like a cycle of life. The forest doesn't just survive. It thrives because every part plays a role. It's not just trees, it's a whole breathing thinking system, like a giant green brain. So next time you walk through the woods, Think of it as a living, breathing thing. It's not just a place. It's a superorganism, working together to stay alive. Long before the first tree took root, the soil was a hidden world of ancient life. Microbes, fungi, and minerals formed the bedrock of this silent collaboration, laying the foundation for the forest's vast, living network. The first trees sprouted from this fertile ground, their roots reaching out to touch the underground web of life. These roots weren't just for anchoring. They were the first tendrils of communication in the forest's nervous system. As more trees grew, their roots intertwined with others, forming a vast, interconnected web. This network wasn't just physical, it was biochemical, a silent dialogue of nutrients, warnings, and shared wisdom. This web allowed the forest to respond as one, sharing water, defending against pests, and even warning distant trees of danger. It was the first step in the forest's journey toward becoming a unified, self-aware entity. The setup wasn't random. It was a carefully orchestrated dance of biology and chemistry, a blueprint for a system that could think, adapt, and survive. The forest had begun to breathe as one. Now, the chemical signals begin their silent journey through the soil, carried by water and air. These molecules act like hormones, relaying messages between individuals, guiding the whole organism toward harmony. When a tree is wounded, it releases distress signals that travel through the fungal network, alerting neighboring trees to the threat. It's a warning, a call for aid, a communal response to injury. These signals can also trigger the release of chemical defenses, like antibiotics or toxins, which protect the entire network from pests or disease. The forest is learning, adapting, and defending itself as one. In this way, the forest becomes more than the sum of its parts. It's a living, breathing system where communication is not just possible, but essential to survival. The clever twist lies in the network's ability to store and share knowledge across the forest. This is not just data, but living memory encoded in the soil and roots. When one tree falls, the network doesn't just lose a part. It redistributes its stored wisdom, passing it on to the next generation of life. This shared memory allows the forest to adapt without losing its identity. It is a living archive of survival, built over centuries through cooperation. The forest doesn't just communicate. It learns, remembers, and evolves. This is the quiet power of a superorganism, hidden in the soil and silence. Beneath the forest floor, a silent symphony of roots and microbes orchestrates the flow of nutrients, weaving the soil into a living, breathing network. The mycorrhizal network acts as a fungal internet, connecting trees in a way that allows them to exchange sugars, water, and even warnings of danger. Each tree is both a sender and a receiver, sharing resources and information in a way that defies the individualism we often assign to living things. This invisible web reminds us that the forest is not just a collection of organisms. It is a single, adaptive learning system, evolving in real time. To see the forest as a superorganism is to shift our understanding of life itself, away from the solitary, toward the collective, the cooperative, the interconnected. Imagine a city where every building breathes, every road hums with life, and every streetlight is a glowing organism. That's the forest as a superorganism, a living, breathing network of life, working together without a single brain. Like a city, the forest has highways, roots that spread underground, carrying nutrients and signals like electricity through a vast, silent grid. Each tree is like a worker in a factory, producing oxygen, storing carbon, and communicating with its neighbors through chemical signals and fungal threads. The forest isn't controlled by a single leader. It's a collective intelligence, shaped by millions of years of evolution, cooperation, and adaptation. So next time you walk through a forest, remember, you're not just walking through trees. You're walking through a living, breathing, thinking organism, one that has been learning, surviving, and thriving for millennia. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. The forest is not just trees. It is a living archive of memory, a silent witness to the passage of time, and a pulse of ancient intelligence that has endured for millennia. Yet today, that intelligence is under siege. We cut, burn, and poison the very systems that have supported life on this planet for eons. We speak of conservation, of sustainability, but rarely do we consider the intelligence that we are destroying in the process. The trees remember. They remember the fires, the storms, the footsteps of those who came before us. They remember us. And now, as we move forward, we must ask, what kind of legacy will we leave behind? Will it be one of destruction or one of understanding? When we speak of forest intelligence, we are not referring to a singular mind or consciousness. We are talking about an intricate, ancient network of life. Trees, fungi, insects, and microorganisms, all entwined in a silent, ancient dialogue that has shaped the planet for millennia. This intelligence is not human-like, but it is profound. It is in the way roots connect underground, forming a vast living internet of communication. It is in the way forests remember, adapt, and heal, if given the chance. We are talking about a system that has endured, evolved, and thrived without us. It has guided the flow of water, shaped the climate, and sustained countless species long before we arrived. And now, it is changing. Not by choice, but by our actions. When we destroy a forest, we are not just cutting down trees. We are severing lifelines, disrupting the flow of information, and silencing a network that has been whispering to the earth for millennia. So what exactly are we talking about? We are talking about a world that has always been more than what we see. A world that is alive, listening, and waiting for us to finally understand. You think your daily routine is far from the forest? But every time you buy a product, you're voting for which forests live or die. Forests are not just trees. They are ancient minds holding memories of Earth's history, whispering in the wind, waiting for us to listen. When we destroy forests, we're not just losing trees. We're erasing the wisdom of millennia, the balance of life that has shaped our planet. Every act of deforestation is a silent theft from the future. It's not just about land, it's about the intelligence of the earth itself. You don't have to be a scientist or a conservationist to care. You just need to recognize that the forest is not a resource. It's a relative. In the year 1750, the world was still whispering its secrets. Forests thrived in their own rhythm, untouched by the hands of men who had not yet learned to measure time in decades, not in centuries. Then came the saw, the plow, the fire. Forests were no longer just places. They became resources, and the land was no longer just earth. It became a ledger of value. With every tree cut, with every forest cleared, the intelligence of the land was being rewritten. The memory of the forest was being erased, and with it, the stories of those who had lived in harmony with it. We built roads, cities, and borders, but in doing so, we built walls between the land and the soul. The forest, once a living archive, became a silent casualty of progress. This is not just a story of loss. It is a story of forgetting. We have forgotten how to listen, how to see, how to remember that the forest is not just a resource. It is a mind, and we have been its silent, uninvited guests. Imagine the forest as a big, quiet brain. It thinks, remembers, and feels. But we're hurting it with our choices. When we cut down trees, we're not just removing wood. We're cutting off the brain's thoughts. The forest gets confused and sad. We take from the forest without asking. We don't see it as a thinking being, just as a resource. But it feels everything. The forest is trying to tell us something. It's not just about trees. It's about how we live, and what we value. If we want to listen, we have to change. We have to care about the forest, not just as a place, but as a thinking, feeling friend. The forest is not a passive backdrop. It is a vast, interconnected network of roots, fungi, and ancient wisdom, silently waiting to be understood. For centuries, humans have walked through these woods, but rarely have we paused to listen to the quiet hum of life beneath our feet. This network, known as the Mycorrhizal web, is a silent communication system that spans miles, linking trees in a way that defies our understanding of individuality. It is a system that has thrived for millennia, adapting and evolving, yet we have long ignored its existence, mistaking it for mere soil and decay. Now, as we begin to recognize its intelligence, we must also confront the damage we have done, the scars left in the wake of our presence. The first step is the disruption, when human activity severs the delicate balance that allows forests to think, to remember, to adapt. This isn't just destruction. It's a fracture in the neural network of the forest, silencing signals that once flowed through root channels and fungal threads. Without this network, the forest can no longer communicate, no longer anticipate threats, no longer heal itself from the wounds of human intrusion. This is the cost of extraction. When we take more than we understand, we silence the memory of the land, and with it, the wisdom of the trees. The forest does not forget. It remembers the scars, the loss, the absence of its voice, and it waits for the chance to speak again. The clever twist lies in how we don't just touch the forest, but we become part of its memory. We think we are shaping it, but in truth, it is shaping us back through time and space. Our actions are not just physical. They are emotional. They are spiritual. The forest responds not just with growth, but with presence, with a kind of knowing that transcends words. This is the twist. The forest isn't just reacting to us. It is remembering us, carrying our footprints in its roots, our voices in its leaves, our silence in its stillness. We do not just influence the forest. We are embedded in its consciousness, part of its vast, slow, ancient mind. And it is watching. It is learning. It is waiting. This is the clever twist. Not that we are changing the forest, but that the forest is changing us, and we are only beginning to realize it. Underneath the surface of the forest, a silent network hums with life. Mycelium threads stretch through the soil, whispering secrets in a language older than time. This is not just decay. It's communication. Trees exchange nutrients and warnings through these fungal networks, forming a kind of intelligence that defies human understanding. We've been watching the trees, but we've never seen the web that binds them. This intelligence is not just biological, it's ecological. It's a system that has evolved over millennia, adapting to fire, drought, and the slow march of time. And now, we are altering it. Logging, pesticides, and climate change are not just damaging the trees, they're disrupting the very architecture of this ancient intelligence. We are not just cutting down forests. We are severing their neural pathways. The science is clear, but the implications are vast. This is not just about trees. This is about how we understand life, how we interact with the world, and how we choose to listen to the hum beneath our feet. Imagine a forest as a vast ancient brain. Its roots like neurons, its trees like thoughts, its soil like memory. Every leaf, every branch, every creature is a part of this immense, silent intelligence. Human activity is like a loud, clumsy child poking at the brain with a stick, not realizing the damage is done to the very fabric of thought and memory. The forest doesn't scream when it's hurt. It just stops growing, stops breathing, stops remembering. And we're the ones who forget to listen. This analogy is dumb, but it's true. We're not just destroying trees, we're erasing the mind of the earth itself. Let's stop being so clever. Let's be humble. Let's be kind. Let's be the ones who don't poke at the brain of the earth. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. There's a quiet hum beneath the surface of the earth, a memory that doesn't fade with time. It lives in the roots, in the silence between the trees. When we clear a forest, we don't just remove trees. We erase 1,000 years of whispers, of roots tangled in the soil, of lives that once thrived in the shade. But the land remembers. Even when the trees are gone, the soil still holds the echoes of what was, waiting for the right moment to rise again. Reforestation is more than planting trees. It's about restoring a memory, a connection to something ancient and sacred that time cannot erase. We don't just grow trees, we awaken the memory of forests, and in doing so, we remind the earth of who it is. Reforestation is not just planting trees, it's about healing the scars of the earth. It's about remembering what was lost and trying to bring it back, even if only in fragments. We talk about forests as if they're something we can simply replace, but forests are more than wood and roots. They are memory, history, and the stories of the lives that once thrived there. Reforestation is an act of memory. It's a way of saying, this place mattered. This place still can. It's about not just restoring land, but restoring meaning. But memory is fragile. A forest can be planted, but it can't be rushed. It needs time, patience, and a deep understanding that the land is not just a resource. It's a living archive. So when we talk about reforestation, we're not just talking about trees. We're talking about the ghosts of the forest, the echoes of the past, and the hope of a future that remembers. You think your daily life is far from the trees, but every breath you take is a whisper of the forest. The air you inhale is shaped by ancient leaves, by the slow, deliberate work of roots pulling carbon from the soil. When you drive past a forest, you don't see the carbon it has absorbed. You don't see the silence it has bought for the future. But every tree is a debt you've never paid, a promise you've never made. The trees don't ask for anything. They only remember. They remember the fire, the flood, the silence, the noise. They remember you, and they wait for you to remember them. When you forget, the forest does not. It carries your memory in its rings, in its roots, in its stillness. It waits for you to return, to feel the weight of what you've lost. You don't have to be a hero to care. You don't have to be a warrior. You just have to listen, to remember, to let the forest remind you of what you've been given and what you've been asked to protect. We begin not in the present, but in the smoke of the past. Forests were once the first great cities, teeming with life, memory, and meaning. They were the lungs of the earth and the cradle of human civilization. Then came the axes, the fires, and the greed. Centuries of deforestation carved our planet into silence, leaving scars that still echo through the soil and soul. But even in destruction, there was memory. The trees remembered the roots, the stories, the wisdom of the land. They whispered through the wind, through the silence, through the ashes. And now, in the heart of this reforestation movement, we are not just planting trees, we are planting memory, healing the earth, and reclaiming the sacred rhythm of life. This is not a race. It is a return, a rekindling of the ancient bond between humanity and the forest, a bond that once was and can be again. When you plant a tree, you're not just adding leaves to the sky. You're writing a new page in a story that's been told for thousands of years. Forests remember. They hold the voices of the trees that came before, the whispers of the earth, and the lessons of the storms that shaped them. Every tree you plant is a promise to the future. It's a way to say, we remember, and we care. But the real magic isn't in the trees themselves. It's in the silence between them, the stories they carry, and the quiet hope they inspire. So when you plant a tree, you're not just planting wood. You're planting a memory, a promise, and a future that's worth remembering. Before the trees are planted, there must be a memory. A memory of what the land once was, and what it could be again. This memory isn't just in the soil. It's in the bones of the earth, in the silence between the branches, in the breath of the wind that still carries the scent of old growth. The setup is not just about where the trees go. It's about who remembers and who will carry that memory forward. Every seed planted is a choice to rekindle something lost. Every step taken in the field is a step into the past and a step toward the future. The setup is the first breath of a forest. It is the quiet before the storm, the pause before the growth, the whisper that says, "We remember." The first step is planting, but the second step is the soil, the quiet, stubborn memory of the forest that holds its breath beneath the earth. This soil is not empty. It carries the weight of countless seasons, of fallen leaves, of buried seeds waiting for the right moment to rise again. The forest remembers in the form of nutrients, of mycorrhizal networks that whisper across the ground, connecting life to life. This is how the forest heals, not with haste, but with patience, with a memory that is both fragile and unbreakable. The second step is not just about growing trees. It's about awakening the forest's memory, so it may dream again. The clever twist isn't about planting trees, but about remembering them. Forest memory isn't just about what grew, but what was lost. It's about the stories, the lives, and the silence that once filled the air. This plaque is a reminder of what was here before, a marker for the past that guides the present. It tells us not just where to plant, but where to heal, where to honor, and where to begin again. Reforestation isn't just about the trees. It's about the memory of the forest, the history of the land, and the people who once lived among its roots. To plant is to remember. This sapling carries the weight of what was and the hope of what could be. It's a bridge between the past and the future, a living testament to the power of memory and the will to restore. To reforest is to remember. It's not just about growth, but about the quiet strength of what we carry in our hearts, and the courage to let it take root again. Beneath the towering canopies, roots weave a silent network, carrying messages through the soil like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Each tree is a memory keeper, storing carbon like a vault, but also holding the echoes of ancient rainfall, of sunlight, of time itself. In the soil, microbes and fungi form a hidden intelligence, connecting trees in a silent language that spans miles and centuries. This is not just about planting trees. It's about rekindling a conversation that has been interrupted for too long. The science hums in the rustle of leaves, in the drip of rain, in the slow pulse of life returning to the land. Imagine a forest as a library, where every tree is a book. Each one holds a story, a memory, a lesson passed down through time. When we cut a tree, we're not just losing a plant, we're erasing a chapter from the collective memory of the earth. But when we plant a new tree, we're not just adding a new book. We're writing a new story, one that may never be read again. The forest remembers. It holds the weight of every life that has passed through it, and we too must remember. In the end, the forest is not just a place. It is a witness, a keeper of memory, and a silent teacher. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You've seen the trees, but have you seen the forest breathe? It's a quiet, ancient rhythm, a heartbeat that's been pulsing for millennia, and It's still here, waiting to be heard. Forests are not just collections of trees. They're alive, complex, and full of stories. They've survived fires, storms, and human hands, and they're still standing, still growing. What if the forest could teach us something, not about survival, but about healing? Not just for the land, but for us too. This is not just a story about trees. It's about resilience, about renewal, about the possibility that even in the face of loss, something new can emerge. In the silence of the woods, there is a kind of clarity, a chance to listen, not just to the trees, but to the world and to ourselves. So what exactly are we talking about? We're not just talking about trees. We're talking about the lungs of the planet, the homes of countless species, and the silent witnesses to the Earth's history. Forests are more than ecosystems. They're living libraries, holding stories of resilience, memory, and survival in every root and leaf. Healing forests means not just stopping damage, but actively restoring balance, giving them the tools to thrive in a world that's still changing. It's not about returning to the past, but about building a future where forests can adapt, evolve, and continue to support life in all its forms. This is not just about saving trees. It's about saving the promise of a world that can still breathe, grow, and endure. You might not notice it, but every breath you take is tied to the forests. They are the lungs of the earth, and you are their silent partner in this ancient living system. When you choose to support sustainable practices, you're not just protecting trees. You're safeguarding the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the climate you live in. Even if you don't live near a forest, the health of these ecosystems affects you in ways you can't yet imagine. It's not just about the trees. It's about the future you helping to shape. Caring for forests is an act of hope, a way to say, I believe in a better world. And that belief is what will help us heal the planet together. The forests of the past were not just landscapes. They were living archives of memory, resilience, and wisdom. They held the stories of countless generations, whispering through the leaves and roots of what it meant to live in harmony with the earth. But as the world changed, so did the forests. Industrialization carved paths through them, and the rhythm of life was disrupted by the waves of progress, leaving scars that took generations to heal. In the face of destruction, communities rose. They fought not just for trees, but for the soul of the land. Their voices grew into movements, and their hands planted seeds of hope in the soil. Today, we see the results of that struggle. Forests that are healing, not just surviving. They are adapting, regenerating, and becoming stronger than ever, as if the land itself is reclaiming its future. The past may be written in the rings of ancient trees, but the future is still being shaped by our choices. Every seed planted, every law passed, and every story told is a step toward a world where forests are not just protected, but revered. Imagine a forest that's not just alive, but healing. Trees are growing back where there used to be scars, like a wound that's finally closing. People are helping it heal. They plant trees, protect animals, and make sure the forest has the tools to survive storms and droughts. The forest is learning to be stronger. It's not just about growing back. It's about growing better, standing tall and protecting the earth. This is not just for the trees. It's for us too. When the forest heals, we all get to breathe easier and see a world that's worth saving. Before any healing can begin, the forest must be understood. We need to listen to the land, to the stories it carries, and to the signs it gives us about its needs. This means mapping the scars of the past, where the trees fell, where the soil is wounded, and where the roots still struggle to hold on. The first step is not just about planting, but about reconnecting. Reconnecting the land to itself and the people to the place they call home. This is where the journey begins, not with action alone, but with understanding, patience, and the quiet courage to let the forest begin to heal. The first step is planting the seed, but the second step is about how it takes root. Trees don't just grow in soil. They form symbiotic relationships with fungi, creating an underground network that shares nutrients and even warnings of danger. This is the mycelial web, often called the wood wide web. It's not just a biological process. It's a form of communication, a kind of collective intelligence that helps forests adapt and survive. When a tree is damaged or diseased, it sends signals through this network, alerting others to prepare. This kind of resilience isn't just biological. It's a metaphor for how we can learn to support each other and the ecosystems we depend on. This is the second step, how it works. Not just planting, but nurturing the connections that allow forests to heal. It's not about individual trees, but about the web that binds them together. Understanding this mechanism gives us hope. It reminds us that nature is not just fragile, it's resilient, adaptive, and capable of healing when given the chance. This isn't just about planting trees. It's about understanding the language of the forest itself. We're not just adding to the canopy. We're listening to the whispers of the soil and the rhythm of the roots. Modern agroforestry techniques mimic natural ecosystems, allowing trees to thrive alongside crops and livestock. It's a partnership, not a competition, between nature and human need. These systems are designed to heal degraded land, not just plant trees. They restore water cycles, fight climate change, and create spaces where life can flourish again. The clever twist lies in the balance between intervention and observation. We don't just shape the forest, we learn from it, adapting our methods as it evolves, ensuring resilience for generations to come. This is how it works, not by force, but by harmony. By learning from the past and daring to imagine a future where forests are not just protected, but celebrated as living, breathing ecosystems. Beneath our feet, the soil is alive with a quiet revolution. Microbes, fungi, and roots form a vast, invisible network that communicates, nourishes, and protects the forest. This is the foundation of resilience, a silent symphony of life. These ancient networks are not just passive. They are memory banks, storing knowledge of past disturbances and weather patterns. They teach the trees how to adapt, how to endure, how to thrive in the face of change. Science is beginning to listen to these voices, mapping the hidden conversations of the forest. Researchers are learning to read the language of the soil, decoding the wisdom of the ancient trees that have stood for centuries. This knowledge is not just academic, it's practical. It informs reforestation, restoration, and conservation. It tells us how to rebuild forests that are not only green, but also wise and strong. The science of forests is not about control. It's about partnership. It's about listening, learning, and letting the forest teach us how to heal the earth. This is the future, rooted in the past and growing toward the light. Imagine a forest not as a collection of trees, but as a single, breathing organism. Every leaf, every root, every creature is a part of its pulse, working together in a rhythm older than memory. When we cut a tree, we don't just lose a trunk, we disrupt the heartbeat of the whole. But when we plant one, we're not just adding wood, we're restoring a beat, a missing note in a symphony that has been playing for millennia. This is not about perfection. It's about persistence. The forest doesn't need us to be perfect. It needs us to be patient, to be present, to be willing to listen to the language of the land. The forest is not a problem to solve. It is a teacher, a partner, a friend. And in learning from it, we find the courage to heal not just the land, but ourselves. So let's stop pretending we're in control. We're just part of the story. And if we're lucky, we'll be the ones who remember the forest's name when the world forgets. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. I've walked through forests before, but never like this. Not with my ears open, not with my breath held. The silence is not empty. It's filled with the weight of time, the hush of something ancient waiting to be heard. I don't know what I'm listening for. Maybe it's not a sound at all, but a feeling, a way of being that the forest has always known. This isn't just a place. It's a presence, a quiet, unspoken conversation between the earth and the sky, between the trees and the air. And I am just here, standing at the edge of something vast, something alive, something that has always been listening. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just trees, or the wind, or the silence between sounds. It's a presence that hums beneath the surface, older than memory, deeper than thought. We're talking about something that doesn't speak in words, but in patterns, in the rhythm of the rain, the sway of the branches, the breath of the earth itself. It's a language older than our own. It's not something we can fully grasp, but it's something we can feel. Like the weight of the sky pressing down on the forest, or the memory of a storm that once swept through long ago. We're not just listening to the forest. We're trying to understand a kind of silence that carries meaning. A silence that has been there, waiting for millennia. And in that silence, there is a kind of knowing, a recognition that we are not separate from this place, but part of it, always, and always listening. You think the forest is far away, but it's in your breath, in the air you never notice. Every tree, every leaf is part of a chain that connects you to the world you barely understand. When you walk through the woods, you are not just passing through. You are part of something ancient, something that has been here long before you were born, and will be here long after you are gone. The forest doesn't just shelter the creatures that live there. It shelters you in ways you can't see. It filters the air, holds the water, and keeps the balance of the world you depend on, even if you never think about it. You might not hear it, but the forest is speaking. It's telling you about the climate, about the earth, about the life that depends on it. If you ignore it, you ignore the voice of the planet itself. Secretly, you do care. You just don't know how much. The forest is a mirror, reflecting your own connection to the world, and it's asking you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. The forest has always been here, older than cities, older than empires. It watched as men carved their names into stone, and as kings built their towers on the backs of the earth. We built roads to escape its silence, and fences to claim its land. But the forest never spoke, only grew, and bore the weight of our greed with quiet patience. In the 20th century, we tried to save it, with laws, with parks, with the hope that a single tree might outlive the man who cut it down. But the forest is not a museum. It is a living memory. A pulse beneath the soil, a whisper in the wind that has always known what we forget. Today, we are asked to listen, not just to the trees, but to the silence between them, to the stories that remain, and the ones that have been lost. The forest isn't just trees. It's a story, a whisper, a memory. It's listening, and it's waiting for us to hear. When you sit still, the world slows. You hear the wind, the leaves, the rhythm of life in the dirt and roots. The forest is not silent. It's full of voices, but they're not loud. They're soft, like a lullaby from the earth. To listen is to be still. To be still is to be present. And to be present is to be part of something bigger than yourself. The forest doesn't need us to fix it. It needs us to listen, to remember we are not separate from it. So, when you walk through the forest, don't just look, listen, and maybe, just maybe, you'll hear it back. The first step is to find a quiet place where the forest breathes without interruption. It must be a space where the wind moves through the trees like a whisper, and the ground is soft with fallen leaves. You must bring only what you need: a notebook, a pen, and a quiet heart. No distractions, no expectations, just the space to listen, to feel, to be still in the presence of something ancient and alive. The ground is not just beneath your feet. It is a living memory of the forest. Each leaf, each stone, each root holds the weight of time, and the earth itself hums with a rhythm older than language. You sit, you breathe, and you allow the forest to move through you. It does not speak in words, but in patterns, in pauses, in the way the air changes, and in the silence between the sounds. This is not a performance. It is not an act. It is a meeting between you and the forest, between you and the unseen, between you and the vast, quiet mystery of being alive. The forest doesn't speak in words, but in rhythms that pulse through the earth, through the roots, through the breath of the trees. Each tree is a conduit, a listener, a memory keeper, drawing in the whispers of the wind, the touch of rain, the hum of unseen life beneath the surface. The mechanism is not mechanical, but organic. A network of signals, a language of touch and vibration, passed from one being to another, across generations. It is not about understanding, but about feeling. The way the forest feels, the way it carries the weight of time, the way it holds its silence with intention. To listen is to let go of the need to know, to surrender to the rhythm, to become part of the forest's slow, deep, and ancient song. The twist is not a revelation, but a reorientation. It's not about finding the answer, but about letting the question shape your presence. You don't need to understand the forest to be part of it. You just need to be still, to be open, to be willing to be changed by what you hear. In this silence, the forest speaks in ways that can be translated. It whispers in the wind. It hums in the soil. It sings in the bones of the earth. To listen is to surrender. It's not about control or comprehension. It's about becoming a vessel for something ancient and alive. The twist is that listening is not passive. It is an act of becoming part of the world, not separate from it. It is a way of returning home. Beneath the rustling leaves and the whisper of wind, there is a science that hums in the bones of the earth. It is not just sound. It is a language of frequencies, a pulse of life that has been unfolding for millennia. We are not just listening to the forest. We are listening to the pulse of an ancient, breathing system. Every tree is a node, every leaf a speaker, every root a wire in an intricate, silent network. This is not the sound of chaos, but the sound of coordination. The forest is not passive. It is a symphony of communication, a network of signals that we are only beginning to understand. We stand at the edge of a revelation. The forest is not just a place to visit, but a teacher. Its silence carries a message, and its sound carries a truth that we are only now beginning to hear. To listen to the forest is to listen to the heartbeat of the world. It is to be still, to be present, and to be reminded that we are part of something much older and much wiser than ourselves. The forest is not a machine. It is a pulse, a breath, a rhythm that only makes sense when you let it move through you. We try to measure it, to name it, to box it in equations and classifications, but it always slips through our fingers like water. The forest doesn't care about our labels. It just grows. It just listens. It just remembers. Maybe we are not meant to understand it all. Maybe we are meant to be still, to be quiet, to be open to what we cannot yet name. In the end, the forest is not a puzzle. It is a song. And we are just the listeners, trying to hear the melody in the silence. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Beneath our feet, hidden from sight, lies a world untouched by time. A world where life thrives in darkness, away from the sun's gaze, and where ancient secrets still sleep in the earth. These hidden spaces are not just empty voids. They are full of life. Creatures adapted to the dark, ecosystems that have evolved in silence, and systems that have remained largely unchanged for millions of years. But this world is fragile. It is threatened by human intrusion, by climate change, and by our own ignorance. If we don't protect it, we may lose it forever. This is not just about preserving a place. It's about preserving the piece of our planet's history, a testament to the resilience of life and a reminder of how much we still have to learn. The hidden world beneath is not a mystery to be solved. It is a call to action, one that demands our attention, our respect, and our protection. We're talking about ecosystems that have existed for millennia, untouched and unseen, yet teeming with life. These are the hidden worlds beneath our feet, where creatures have evolved in total darkness, without light, without time. Here, in the depths of the earth, life thrives in ways we barely comprehend. Microorganisms, blind insects, and ancient fungi form a delicate balance, sustained by the faintest traces of nutrients and the faintest whisper of water. These ecosystems are not just fragile, they are vital. They filter water, store carbon, and support biodiversity that we have only begun to understand. And yet, they remain largely unknown and increasingly threatened. Every time we disturb the surface, we risk disrupting the balance of these hidden realms. Mining, pollution, and climate change are encroaching on places where nature has long been in harmony with itself. This is not just about protecting caves. It's about protecting the unknown. Places where life has adapted to the absence of light, where evolution has taken on forms we can barely imagine. The hidden world beneath is not a place to be conquered. It is a place to be protected. And the time to act is now, before it's too late. You think your life is separate from the soil under your feet? But that soil is the foundation of everything. Your food, your air, the water you drink. It's not just dirt. It's a living, breathing world. And you're part of it. Every time you walk on the ground, you're stepping on something ancient and fragile. The same soil that once held the roots of ancient forests now struggles to support the trees of today. It's not just disappearing, it's being forgotten. You don't have to be an expert to see that the soil is more than just dirt. It's the memory of the earth. It holds the stories of the land, the lives that have passed through it, and the future it might still give us. This isn't just about saving the land. It's about saving the people and the world that depend on it. The soil is a silent witness to our choices. And it's time we started listening. You don't have to do much. Just be aware. Just be responsible. The world beneath is waiting for you to care, before it's too late. We have always looked up at the stars, but few have looked down. The Earth's crust, a thin shell of life, hides a labyrinth of secrets waiting to be unearthed. For centuries, we believed the ground was solid. But beneath our feet lies a world that has endured volcanic fury, tectonic shifts, and the slow, silent decay of time. The first maps of the Earth were drawn by hand, with guesses and myths. Yet, even then, the subterranean world was already shaping the fate of civilizations. As we dug deeper, we uncovered not just resources, but the bones of a forgotten world. Every dig site was a window into the past, a testament to how much we've already lost. Time is not a line but a cycle. The Earth has always changed, and so must we. We are not just observers of this hidden world, we are its stewards. This is not a history of the Earth. It is a history of us. A history we are still writing, and one we must protect before it's too late. Imagine digging through the dirt with your hands, and instead of finding rocks, you find a whole world of tiny living things. They're hiding, just like you hiding from the big, loud world above. These little creatures are working hard, but they're not seen. They're the ones cleaning the earth, moving the dirt, and keeping everything alive. We don't even know how many there are. You can help. Just like you help your plants grow, you can help these tiny lives. It's not about being big, it's about being kind and being aware. The world below is not a secret, it's a call. And if you listen, you'll hear it. You'll hear the earth whispering, asking for help. So what will you do? Will you ignore it? Or will you be the one who listens, who protects, who makes sure the world beneath is safe? The first step begins with a quiet, deliberate act, placing a single, fragile tube into the earth. This is where the unseen world begins to stir, and where our responsibility to listen starts. The tube is more than a tool. It is a bridge between the surface and the hidden, a conduit through which the secrets of the deep will rise. This moment is sacred. The earth is not just a resource. It is a repository of memory, a home to countless lives we have never seen, and a system that has sustained us for millennia. Every act of listening begins with this first step: to place the tube, to pause, to wait. It is the beginning of a dialogue that has been waiting for us to begin. This is not just a scientific process. It is an act of reverence, of recognition that we are not above the earth. We are part of it, and it is part of us. The first step is to locate the source, but the real work begins when we reach the surface. The mechanism starts with a simple, yet powerful act: a single, deliberate strike against the ground. This strike is not random. It is calculated, designed to trigger the first movement in a hidden ancient system. Sound is muffled, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. These channels are not just tunnels. They are lifelines carrying water, energy, and history through the earth. They are the silent arteries of a hidden world, barely visible to the untrained eye. As the system awakens, it begins to shift. The ground responds, and with it, the surface begins to change. This is not just a mechanism. It is a conversation between the earth and those who listen. This is how it begins. This is how the hidden world is revealed, not through force, but through understanding, patience, and a willingness to listen to what the earth has to say. The twist isn't just a shift in perspective. It's a redefinition of what we're looking for. We're not just mapping the world below, we're reimagining how it connects to the surface. It's not about finding what's hidden, but about realizing the world beneath is already speaking. It's waiting for us to listen, not with our ears, but with our minds and our hearts. This twist isn't just about science, it's about perception. We're learning to see the world not as separate, but as one vast interconnected system, where the surface and the deep are not just neighbors, but partners. The clever twist is not in the technology, but in the mindset. We're not just exploring the unknown, we're redefining our relationship with the planet itself. This is the moment we choose to look deeper, not just for knowledge, but for responsibility. The hidden world is calling, and it's time we answer. Beneath our feet, a silent symphony plays, Microbes, roots, and fungi weave an ancient, unseen network, binding life in ways we're only beginning to understand. This hidden world is not just alive, it is essential. It regulates our climate, cleans our water, and sustains the very foundations of all ecosystems we see above. The science is clear, but the action is not. We are not just observers of this world. We are part of it, and our choices shape its future. The time to act is now, not for the sake of science, but for the sake of life itself. We must protect the unseen, for it is the bedrock of our world. Imagine the Earth as a giant living organism, with its own nervous system, its own pulse, and its own wounds. We are not just on it. We are in it. We are part of its beating heart. Every time we dig, drill, or build, we're not just changing the land. We're touching its nervous system, its memory, its history. We're writing on its skin without knowing what we're writing. The Earth is not a resource to be extracted. It is a system to be respected. We're not its masters. We're its caretakers, its temporary guests, and its silent witnesses. Our choices today will shape the world beneath our feet for generations. We must act not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because what we do down there, we do to ourselves. So let us not be the ones who forgot the world beneath our feet. Let us be the ones who remembered, the ones who listened, the ones who protected. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.